Let me talk about the four bodies. So the four bodies are the physical body. We're all aware of this, muscle and bone and tissue. The subtle body is the energetic mechanism made up of 72,000 nadis and made up of chakras, and through these nadis the prana flows. The causal body, which is the structure in consciousness that holds the energies, the structures in consciousness that make us believe that we're limited in consciousness. Think of this as the body of Maya, the place where we go to when we're in deep sleep. When the mind is completely quiet and we go to sleep, we're actually engaged with what we call the causal body. And these are the structures in consciousness that make us think that we're limited in time, limited in space, where we're no longer swatantriya. We have limited individual desires, we have limited knowledge, limited capacity to do things. These are actually structures in consciousness which is product of Maya, the creative power of the Supreme that creates the experience of limitation, individuality, of separation. Beyond that is what we will call the supra-causal body, and this is the divine self with its powers fully expanded, the power of doing, omnipotence, all-knowing, the totality of all knowledge, swatantriya, itcha shakti, the unlimited free will that exists, ananda shakti, chit shakti, it's the power of awareness, the power of supreme bliss, which is omnipresent and beyond time and space. So each of us consists of these four bodies, each progressively more dense than the previous one. So from the light of pure consciousness, the supracausal body, it surrounds itself with what we call the five kanchukas, the five limitations, the five limiting powers, five limiting structures in consciousness, and these produce the limited soul that experiences itself as trapped in a body. So the subtle body then manifests, and the physical body is an expression of that. So I haven't heard it or seen it written in the way I'm about to describe it. So this is my sort of take on it. What is the causal body? Universal consciousness chooses to manifest as an individual in this physical reality. So it willingly contracts its universal powers, the powers of being. It's a being of supreme bliss, of unimpeded sovereignty, of omniscience and omnipotence, and creates a power which we call Maya Shakti. So Maya in this tradition is a Shakti of Shiva, a power of Shiva. It's not some alien force that has mysterious control over it. No, it's the will of supreme consciousness to separate and to manifest as individual. And so it creates the next stage of involution, which I will for argument's sake, just call the causal body. So this is a structure in consciousness that the light of consciousness passes through Maya, and it measures out a portion of the five powers of Shiva. So universal ability to do anything, omnipotent, becomes limited, and we can only do certain things. We're limited by our power to achieve things. Universal knowledge, the knowledge of the totality of all that exists, becomes limited, and we as individuals have the capacity of knowing a certain amount of things, what we can learn through the senses and studying in school, and what we can perceive and what we can feel becomes limited. The universal causality, the ability to have unimpeded sovereignty, to know and to do anything, universal willpower, becomes contracted, and we notice that we only have limited willpower. Not everything that we want, we manifest. We can do certain things, we can know certain things, so this becomes limited. the idea of living a life into eternity becomes limited with the belief that I'm a human being and living in this particular place, in this particular body, at this particular time, for a particular length of time. All of those beliefs are actually structured in consciousness. And these are universal. To be born as a human being is to have this structure around us. And this is what I refer to as the causal body. Let me think where I would place those. You could say that. So let's talk about the four levels of speech and how they relate to the four bodies. Now understand these are different models, so they might not fit exactly. You know, one of the four body model comes from the Vedantic tradition that's been adopted by the Tantric traditions. So clearly the para level is the level of the source of power. It's the pure I awareness. And from this pure awareness comes the subtle desire to manifest as a physical world. And so in the level of the supracausal body, there's the development in the divine mind of the conception of sound. And in the divine mind, the entire universe is conceived. And then it says that uttering the word Om, all of this came into being. So it's still within the supracausal body that these primal sounds are formed. They give expression and give rise to the next level of sounds, which is called madhyama. And so these primal sounds join together and they form words. These words are symbols of things, and words join together and form sentences, and sentences form ideas. So this is all happening within the human mind. And this is the madhyama level of speech. Then they're actually spoken into the world, and that would be at the physical level of speech. So this idea of the four bodies, it's a model. Some traditions say that there are 5 bodies, and there's different ways of differentiating it. So I try not to take these things too literally, that they're actually differentiated. I mean, we could look at physical reality, and we now have the advantage of having modern physics and biology and the various sciences that can look at subtler and subtler levels. So there are other ways of looking at it. We group certain energies and we call that a physical body. So, for example, we have a physical body, which consists of blood and muscle and tissue. And we know, for example, that physical body is made up of individual cells. And those cells are made up of molecules. Molecules are made up of atoms. Atoms are made up of protons and neutrons and electrons. And beyond that, there's the quantum field, which is pure energy. And so this is another way of describing it. Shaivism describes 36 levels. So it's a question of granularity. Where does the physical body end, and where does the subtle body begin? So these are not clearly defined areas, but it's important to look at our own experience. You know, I've had experiences in meditation where I would actually leave my physical body and be able to look back at my physical body and be amazed. I had the power of seeing, and I could hear, and I could smell. So I would describe that experience as a subtle body experience. But I would really hold in mind that these are models that can be helpful to understand, and not hard and fast rules. There's no concrete separation. I'm not really sure where the physical body ends and the subtle body begins, and where the subtle body ends and the causal body begins. Right? These are just helpful models to help us come to know the source of all this, the witness of the mind. The idea is that at one level we could think about going from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. Another, we could think of going from the physical body inward to the subtle body, being the causal body. And because of the momentum, the centrifugal force, as it were, it keeps us moving in the direction inward, so we're able to actually penetrate through the veil of illusion and enter into the space of pure consciousness. So it's important to leave that silence at the end. And so we go from the silence to the repetition of the mantra, and the repetition of the mantra leads to the silence. So it's this cycle. And we could think of from nothing comes Om, and it merges back into nothing, back into the void. And the void is the entry place for the awareness of our own being. So Om is an invocation of the Supreme Being. It's the invocation of the self within us. And then whatever mantra follows it is an invocation of a particular aspect of that Supreme Deity. So Om in and of itself is a complete mantra. So we can repeat Om, pause, Namah Shivaya, Om, Namah Shivaya. So whether it's at the beginning, at the end, in the deeper stages of meditation, it's beyond time and space. So there's no beginning and there's no end. There's only entry point into consciousness itself. So the idea is that the repetition of the mantra isn't so much about time and space. It's the present moment. And so we should repeat the mantra Om with great devotion and great reverence, recognizing that in any moment, the repetition of the sound Om can bring us into the full awareness of our own being. Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. You know, there's certain geographical areas that you find that are cross-cultural, that people find enlightenment in deserts, on mountaintops. You know, even Jesus went to the desert and sat on a mountain and was tempted by the devil, by Satan, and had his final moments of realization on a mountaintop. So I think there's no accident that happens, that going to a desert, you're alone, you're quiet, there's infinite space, and if one is truly sensitive to it, one can allow the consciousness to expand into infinity without limit. So in a sense, you use the analogy of the sun and its rays. If I'm outdoors and I feel the sun on my face, I can get a sense that if I turn, I can see where the source is coming from, and I can have a direct experience of the source. So as we see an old friend, and it happens best if it's by surprise. Some years ago, I was crossing the Lakshman-Jula Bridge, and there was a fellow coming in the opposite direction, a Swami coming the other direction. He looked vaguely familiar. As he got closer, I recognized it was my old friend Ram Zager. And I said, Ram, oh, you've become a Swami, oh, and we hugged each other. It was just, we hadn't seen each other 40 years. And we were both just filled with delight. We were like little kids jumping up and down on the bridge. And I remembered this particular dharana. I remember just closing my eyes as I hugged him and just felt the joy that was arising. So if we keep the mind still and don't think too much and have too much conversation, we can hold on to that experience and allow it to grow and to develop and to fill our entire being. The purpose of this practice is to have a direct glimpse, a direct experience of the source, so that we will now have access to that bliss any time of our choosing. All of these dharanas put us in touch with the place of truth within us so that we can discover our access point. How can I, is it through the breath? Is it through the mantra? Is it seeing an old friend? Is it listening to music? Is it having good food? Whatever it is that works for you to get in touch with the, not just the experience of bliss, but the source of that bliss. That's the power of this practice. Once we discover that source, we have access to it and we can experience it in meditation without the need of any external stimuli. So the next couple of practices that I'm going to offer are a form of Shiva Vyapti, of seeing consciousness in the world. So in the tradition that I come from, realization takes place roughly in two stages. One is realizing the self within, closing my eyes. And the second stage in our development is seeing that same consciousness reflected outward. And so these external practices that I'm giving are means of practicing. We don't have to wait until we've fully realized the self to begin these practices. They can go hand in hand. Meditation on the inner self in the quiet of our private meditation, as well as seeing consciousness in the world and using our senses and every experience in life as a means of knowing the self. This is the tantric approach, is that it's not a path of renunciation, of renouncing the world. It's a path of learning how every experience in life, every moment presents an opportunity to recognize the self. Eating delicious food. When we're eating, it's a chance. When we're going for our walk, seeing beauty, seeing nature, opportunity to remember the self, seeing an old friend, seeing a relative. Literally every moment, every experience, even negative experiences. There are Dharmanas here, they talk about in a moment of absolute terror, when we're completely frightened, the tiger is chasing us and it's about to eat us. In that moment of terror, we can recognize the energy that's expressing itself has taken the form of terror, but it's just energy. It's just pure Shakti. So one particular sadhana is to embrace life in its fullness, to drink in every experience of the senses, all the experiences of the mind, and use them as vehicles to recognize the self. I'm a little uncomfortable saying that these are all Shiva Vyapti, because Shiva Vyapti means actually having the experience of seeing everything as consciousness. These are dharanas that can lead to Atma Vyapti, even though they're using the external world. So maybe the way we divide these is meditation dharanas and dharanas in the exterior world. So there's the inner world, all the breath and turning within, and then there's the external world. And that's actually what I'm going to do today, is a couple more of these. As we study these dharanas, we become aware that every experience in life is an opportunity to recognize the self. So what I do periodically is I'll sit down with my notebook and I'll lay out my day. My morning meditation, where I'll set my intentions for the day, and then I'll look at my experiences that I have lined up for the day. So for example, I'll have my breakfast. And so I will be able to practice the dharana of being fully in the moment, enjoying the savor of delicious food. And I will consciously practice that, recognizing the self while eating the food. Then maybe I'll be going for a walk in nature, and I'll write down, oh, while I'm walking in nature, I can enjoy my senses. I can see beauty. I can have the intention of seeing beauty and discovering that sense of beauty is actually arising from within me. I'll see beautiful flowers. I'll go and sniff the flowers. I'll please my senses. I will feed my senses with the awareness that I'm not just being self-indulgent, but I'm doing a spiritual practice. I'm pleasing the senses and then discovering the source of that pleasant experience within myself. Maybe I'll take a walk in the evening and sit down by the Ganga and watch a beautiful sunset and notice that the sense of awe, the sense of grandeur, the sense of magic, the chamatkara, the spontaneous arising from delight is an opportunity to close my eyes and go within. So I like to structure my day and my life so that I'm cognizant of all the opportunities that I'll have to know the self in my daily life. So it's not that we need to practice every one of these every day, but just to have the awareness that the self is within me. And the five senses are a great gift with the opportunity to bestow bliss, beauty, joy by focusing them with awareness. Think of them as sensual experiences as offerings to the goddess within me. That my senses are the servants. They're going around gathering the libations. When I have a direct experience using my senses, this is offered to my mind. I'm having pure thoughts of joy. This is what I'm offering to the self. And so I spend my day consciously going from joy to joy rather than from desire to desire. Most human beings spend their life going from a desire. I'm hungry, I need to eat, I need this, I need that. No. What if we could totally reposition that and see our lives as, this is the joy of the self in food. This is the joy of the self in music. I can listen to beautiful music and appreciate that the joy that's arising from the music is an expression of my inner being. So these 112 types of meditation, dharanas, are types of yoga. They're recommendations, they're samples. So I can begin to construct my own dharanas, my own way of seeing the world through the eyes of consciousness. And that's the real message of these teachings. It's not that you have to listen to music or have to see an old friend, have these experiences. No. Look at your day. See where you can have delight, where you can have joy, where you can have love, and go through those moments mindfully. Having an experience of joy, remember the self, become absorbed in it. Go from joy to joy to joy into eternity. And this is self-realization. And I might add that this is Shiva Vyapti. So Atma Vyapti is the meditation we do with our eyes closed and the various spiritual practices. Then Shiva Vyapti is when we take that awareness of the joy, the rasa, the delight, the juice within us and experience the world in the same way. This is Shiva Vyapti. So wherever the mind finds delight, there's a particular dharana here which we'll do in a little bit, which is that wherever we find delight, see every opportunity as a chance, an opening to find delight. So if you get delight from getting 5 lakh likes on your Facebook page or on your YouTube post, great. The challenge with that, however, is that when you don't get enough likes, you don't want to become disappointed. So if you can post and enjoy the fact that people appreciate it, great. But be free of expectations, because if the expectations aren't met, then you'll be disappointed and sad. So the key here is to recognize those moments that give us joy. So you get a windfall in your bank account, there's a joy that arises. Instead of being dependent on the money or to thoughts about it, go within. Whenever we feel the joy arise, go within and savor the actual feeling that's present. It's the feeling that where the purity lies. The feeling arises from inner consciousness, and we can learn to go directly to the source. So you can use any experience in life. You know, getting money in your bank account. How about getting a good grade on your report, getting a good grade on your exam, or passing the exam, right? These are all sources of joy. Let me tell you a story about music. This was several years ago, and I was driving a car. I was going from Los Angeles to San Diego. And as I was driving, there was a piece of music. I was listening to the radio, and a piece of music came on that just grabbed my attention. It was a song called The Rose by Bette Midler. And as I was listening to the beauty of the music was extraordinary. And I was listening to the lyrics, and it was such lovely poetry that I began to weep. I actually got what we call the God chills. I could feel the energy at the back of my neck, my hair standing up. And while I'm driving, going 60, 80 miles an hour, I had to pull over onto the side of the highway because I was weeping, just weeping with joy at the beauty of this song. It had really, truly touched my soul. So I went on the internet and found out about the piece of music and read up on it a little bit. And it turns out that this piece of music was received in one download by the writer of the music, the creator, the composer of the music, the lyrics of the music. So in a moment, she received this download, this inspiration, fully conceived. And then she began to work on it, giving it a form, writing down the notes, writing down the lyrics. Then she found an artist to sing it. And so it went through the 4 stages. There's an ancient sage by the name of Abhinavagupta who lived in Kashmir, and he wrote his theory of Rasavada, his theory of aesthetics. And he was describing art as someone receiving divine inspiration. We call this pratibha, divine inspiration. And the artist has the skill and the capacity, the craftsmanship to actually give form to the inspiration that they received. And if they are able to do that, this inspiration becomes infused with consciousness, becomes infused with the consciousness of the one who inspired the music, who received the music. So the music itself becomes chaitanya, becomes alive with the ability to create the experience of the one who received it. And I had an experience of this when I went to the Getty Museum with a friend of mine. We were in Los Angeles, and we went to the exhibit of ancient Indian art. And my friend and I, both at the same time, were drawn to this particular statue of the goddess. Just wasn't particularly more beautiful than the other things, but we were both drawn mysteriously to this work of art. And at the same time, we both were inspired to put our head on the feet of the goddess. And when we put our head to the feet, we saw that the feet were worn away from centuries and centuries of people being so moved by this piece of art that they had worn away the feet of this stone statue. Why? Because it carried the consciousness. It was chaitanya, it was alive, it had the ability to carry the rasa of the one who created it. So music can do that. If it comes from the highest level of realization, the highest level of speech, and goes through the 4 levels of speech, the 4 levels of sound, and takes the form, it carries the Shakti, the inspiration of the source of inspiration itself. It becomes an expression of the self in the world. So those of you who are artists, craftsmen, even business people, as you meditate, you'll get in touch with this source of inspiration, and ideas will download. I often have that experience when I'm preparing to give a talk where I'll be thinking about a talk, thinking, reading books, then I'm out for a walk one day and whoosh, a download comes. The whole talk, beginning, middle, end, quotes, stories, appears as one thought. And I simply go back, write it down, and deliver that. This is the power of meditation. Whatever your chosen profession is, whatever your art, you'll get in touch with this place of pure, perfect inspiration, and then you become a channel for the expression of that in this world.